All right. Brr, it's freezing cold in here, man. See if anybody jumps on. It's kind of late, but that's how it's been working out. We have had so many people join our program. It's been like 20 people in like a week or something. So I've been doing a lot of coaching. So anyway, I'm not really getting to live streams until late at night, but we have some of the most amazing people joining our program. It is awesome. Brr, almost kind of shivering. I got a blanket here. Brr. See if anybody jumps on here. Or maybe this will be the live stream that nobody shows up. Oh, Katie, what is up? Good to see you. Just settled in for the night. Glad to be here for this one. I'm glad to have you. Looking forward to chatting. See if some more people show up. It is freezing cold. We keep it so cold in our house at night. Like, I have to have it like 64 degrees. Well, I mean, I can fall asleep at like 66 if I had to, but you know, I keep it at like 64 degrees. No, it's not colder weather. Arkansas weather, it's kind of like bipolar weather. I mean, it'll be like super hot and muggy one day and then freezing cold the next. No, it's just winter inside of my house because I'm almost shivering because the freaking fan's on. Hold on a second. Let me shut that dang fan off. Did that shut it off? Hold on a second. Oh, there we go. Brr. I was gonna get frozen out. What's up, guys? Good to see you. You guys got any questions about healing from anxiety, panic, trauma, complex trauma, depersonalization, derealization, existential rumination and obsession, health anxiety, generalized anxiety, all that stuff? Be happy to help. I'm in Oregon, so I get the whole bipolar weather thing. Oh, I don't know anything about Oregon. I just know like the piano organ type thing. What's up, guys? Welcome. Hey, if you got any questions, drop it in the chat. I'd be happy to do my best to answer it. Anxiety, DPDR, trauma, existential obsession and rumination, health anxiety, generalized anxiety, depression, addiction, narcissistic abuse, any of all. It's almost midnight here, guys, so if I misspeak, that's why. Anybody got any questions, drop them below. I'd be happy to encourage you and answer them the best that I can. And I hope you're doing well. Let me know where you're watching from. Drop it in the chat. Let's see if I know where any of these places are or know anything about these places. Kind of a quiet crowd tonight, huh, Katie? If you guys got any questions, let me know, and we'll get this thing rolling, and I'll answer some questions for what I say will be 5 minutes or 15 minutes, and then it'll be like 4 hours. What's up, Daniel? Good to see you, buddy. I've been having some mild hormonal issues from too high cortisol, from too much fight or flight. Tips on body exercise or somatic work to lower stress. Daily exercise is very, very, very important. 15 to 20 minutes a day is really, really important. I mean, as far as lowering stress, I mean, there's 10,000 things that I could tell you. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to specify it more, maybe that would help. What's up, Ghostly Vulture? I could just throw out kind of random advice as far as lowering stress. Don't get involved in resistance is a very big one. Well, why don't you work with me, Katie? Like, apply and see if we can work something out. That would be the ideal scenario, so I can kind of take a look at your situation. But there's so many layers as far as what causes stress. But resistance is one of them, and resistance brings suffering. So what I tell people is you have to be very careful getting involved in unnecessary resistance, because it's going to activate stress. Because in order to resist, it requires an escalation in your sympathetic nervous system, right? It takes energy to resist. And so many people are resisting all the time. They're getting involved in political debates, religious debates. You see something on Facebook or social media that you don't like, and you just start resisting, and it drains your energy. So that's one reason why people get stressed out, is because they resist a lot. I don't resist like that. Like, I mean, if you try to mess with me or my family, like if somebody walks up to me and starts to, like try to punch me, well, of course, there are some exceptions where you need to resist. But most of the time, you need to just learn to walk away. Like if you see a post online that you don't agree with, here's one secret for that, by the way. Go ahead and write out what you want to say. Let's say you're on Facebook and you see a post that you don't agree with. Go ahead and write it out, but then you've already made a pre-decision that you're going to delete it. That gives you a chance to release some of that emotion without actually posting on that post that you don't agree with and getting into resistance, right? So that's one tip. But anyway, here's another big one, guys. Don't try to help people who didn't ask for your help. How many times do you get involved in wasting your energy on people who are suffering that never even asked you for your help? Maybe they don't even want your help. Just because you know how to help somebody doesn't mean that you should, right? Because it's going to create resistance. And it's also frustrating because it's like, like whenever I started to overcome all this stuff, and especially once I started to help other people with this stuff, as far as anxiety and panic and trauma and all that, I would see people suffering around me, and I'd be like, oh, I know how to help. Hey, do this, do this. And a lot of times they didn't even want help. And it just led to a lot of unnecessary resistance and stress in my life. So don't help people who did not ask for your help. And that will save you a lot of wasted energy. Whenever anxiety kicks in, it's usually because there's too much fatigue in the body. You've drained your energy. And so your brain starts to think that you're in danger, and your body starts to kick in fight or flight. And then if you get overwhelmed, that's whenever your body kicks in a trauma response. So with that being said, you got to start to guard your energy. That's a big thing that I do with my clients, is we kind of take a look at, are you doing anything that's wasting your energy? Because you only have so much per day. Like I tell people, you're not a machine. Like you don't have unlimited energy to spend. And some people live their life as if they do have unlimited energy, and it ends up burning them out, right? Another tip, right? Don't be afraid to say no. Like, you can't say yes to everybody. You can't give out energy and time to everybody. And don't feel guilty for that, guys. Like, for example, in one way or the other, I have hundreds, sometimes thousands of people every month who reach out to me in comments or emails that want to work with me. Do I have the physical capacity to work with every single person that comes to me? No. And so I'm not going to feel guilty for that. I have to say no to some people, or else I'm going to just burn out and become completely overwhelmed, right? So some people feel guilty saying no, but no is a reflection of self-value. It's a boundary. It's just accepting the reality that we don't have unlimited energy to spend. You're going to have to say no to somebody, right? And so, like, not everybody should just be able to walk up in your life and get all your time and energy. You need to have This is one thing I do with my clients, and this is a big part of why I'm able to have 70 plus clients at a time, and, you know, 5 people that work for me and a family of 5 and all this stuff and not burn out, is because I've got very strict boundaries of where I invest my time and energy, right? So, for example, first, it's my wife and kids. They're number one priority. I'll even be in a coaching session, and if my wife needs me, she's number one priority. I'll be like, hey, just 1 second. If I feel like it's, you know, an emergency or something, or if my kids need me, everything else takes a back seat to my wife and kids. But the next after that is going to be my clients, right? They get second to my friends and or my wife and kids. They get the second most of my energy, right? Right after that would be like, you know, friends and other family. Below that is going to be, you know, maybe like people like you guys, for example, just people that need help or whatever. And then below that would be like complete strangers. So I've got a hierarchy for how I invest my time and energy. And I reserve the most amount of energy for the people that I've designated get the most of my time and energy. So that way I'm not distributing my energy in such a way that I burn out, right? So write out some circles. Start with, you know, the smallest circle, right? That's the people that get the most of your time and energy, and it's the biggest priority. Then write another circle. Who's the second people that get your time and energy? And then who's the third? And the bigger the circles go, the less the priority, right? So it'll help you to not feel guilty saying no, because it's not that you don't care about that person. It's that you've got to make sure you've got enough energy for these people that are in the center of that circle. You guys following me? Don't give out your time and energy to just anybody, guys, because it'll burn you out very fast. Okay, so anyway, I'm not getting a ton of questions so far, so I'm just kind of talking and see if I can encourage you guys, but I hope that this is helping you. Okay, Rick Sanchez, sorry, I just saw your message. You said, I have a massive derealization panic attack every time I think about the universe and its origin. It hits me like a ton of bricks and can happen in the worst places, such as school or at work. I know exactly what you're talking about because I went through this as well. And I help clients with this all the time. You know, like I would say probably, I'm just guessing, 20 to 30% of the clients that come to me are struggling with something called existential OCD. And a lot of times it can be induced by experiencing depersonalization, realization, which are very existential in nature. And sometimes as a secondary consequence, you can start to obsess over existence through that. But it can also happen for other reasons. But you're basically absolutely obsessed with existence, and you're trying to solve it in your mind. You're hoping that at some point you'll be able to focus on these existential related subjects and not feel overwhelmed. And you're also hoping that you can get clarity about them, and you're just wrestling. Remember, we just talked about resistance and how you got to be careful with that. With existential OCD, it's the ultimate unending loop of resistance, because you're wrestling with questions that we're not going to know until we're dead, right? So you have to step out of the boxing ring. That's one of the things that I teach my clients. I've got a guy in our program for months. He was one of the only clients that I've worked with in a while that just would not apply what I was telling him. And he was just stepping into the boxing ring, obsessing over existence all the time, over and over and over again. I was like, dude, you've got to step out of the boxing ring, get into a calm body, just move on with your life. And he just wouldn't do it. And finally, he started to do that, and a few other things that I taught him. And he messaged me, he's like, dude, I'm getting breaks. It's happening. I was like, yeah, because you're not going to beat this with your mind, because we're not going to know what the answers are to these questions until we're dead. Now, I am a Christian, and I do have, you know, my beliefs, my faith beliefs, but there's also a lot of unanswered questions as a Christian. The Bible actually is very, very vague about the afterlife. And a lot of the Bible verses that a lot of Christians think are talking about, heaven when we die, are actually kind of more kind of pictures, like spiritual pictures of what we're supposed to have on earth. Actually, that's a whole nother subject. But we don't really know that much, even as Christians. We know that we'll be in heaven and stuff like that with God, but there's still a lot of unanswered questions as Christians. Whenever I get to heaven, me and God, we're gonna sit down, we're gonna talk. I'm like, bro, like, why was this able to happen, right? Like, why are babies allowed to die in the womb, right? Or why was there so much suffering, or this thing or that thing happened? What was the purpose of this, right? There's so many things that we're just not going to know until we're dead. And so it's like, if you get into this resistance loop where you have to know the answers to be calm, you're setting yourself up for unending resistance. What I had to do is I finally had to say, you know what? I'm going to start focusing on what I am in control of. And what I'm in control of is living a good life and helping as many people as possible and enjoying the beautiful things about life. And that's what helped me a lot with my existential obsession. What's up, Crystal? What's up, AC? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we don't know a lot of stuff. And I think sometimes, and I don't mean this in a condescending way at all, nothing I say is ever indicate or never said to create shame, but I also speak realistically. Sometimes we're trying to play God, and I'm not trying to convert anybody into believing in God necessarily, although I don't think it would be a bad idea. But if you're an atheist, I love you. If you're a different religion, I love you. But whenever you are in charge of figuring everything out, you have to figure out what happens when we die and the purpose of life and the meaning of life. Like, that's a lot of freaking pressure. One of the benefits of believing in God is there's a sense of co-regulation. Like, God, I trust you. I don't know the answers as to why a lot of things happen. And yeah, the Bible isn't super clear about exactly what happens in the afterlife, other than just being with you. But I trust that you've got it worked out. And there's a sense of rest that comes from that. I don't think we're supposed to be, our own gods. I think that creates a lot of stress. Hold on a second. Oh my gosh, my cat. Look at this, guys. My cat is outside the window. I literally thought there was a person staring through my freaking window. And I was like, bro, I'm about to have to get my 9 milli. Anyway, what's up, DD? You said hello from Boston. Awesome, man. Good to see you. Think I'll go to Boston. Think I'll start a new life. Leave it all behind. You know that song? I've actually been to Boston. I have some cousins from Boston. And I remember skating up and down this boardwalk, and I saw like Plymouth Rock or something. Does that sound familiar, Dee Dee? Yeah, that cat freaked me out, dude. Like, I don't have my contacts on right now, so like I'm nearsighted, so I can see you guys crystal clear, but I can't. I mean, I'm like blind. Like it starts getting blurry. Like right here, it gets blurry. So about this far away from my face, it gets blurry. And I saw this freaking like silhouette, because one of our cats is like black and white, but I saw like this silhouette of this dark figure, and I was like, bruh, this ain't good. Anyway, okay, that's Plymouth. Gotcha. What are Jonathan? What's up? What are the most common symptoms of depersonalization? So there's a series of brain structures that shut down in a trauma state. We've got brain scans that show this. And it's known as the Mohawk of self-awareness. And I don't want to try to list out all this. There's like 6 brain structures. I just sent a picture of a diagram of this to one of my clients. But it's like the insula, anterior cingulate cortex, all different brain structures. And whenever this Mohawk of self-awareness shuts down, it basically takes away our ability to really feel connected to ourselves and feel connected to our body. as well as feel connected to the material world. And so depersonalization, derealization are not necessarily the presence of something, they're more the absence of connectedness to our body and to the material world that would come whenever this mohawk of self-awareness is online. So it's almost like depression, right? Depression is not really the presence of something, it's the absence of something. It's like having a cup that's empty, right? The way that we deal with depression is we, metaphorically speaking, fill up the cup. We fill up your life with things that'll make you full of dopamine, your brain full of dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, etc. And so the depression is really the absence of something. And that's the same with depersonalization, realization. It's the absence of having this mohawk of self-awareness online. And thus you basically just feel very detached from your body. You feel out of body. You may look at your hands. You kind of feel like they're not your own hands. You can feel detached from your head. You can feel detached from your legs. I mean, different body parts. You look in the mirror, you see a stranger. You may feel like you don't feel connected. You don't feel like you're connected to the reflection in the mirror. Other people may feel like they're strangers. Feel weird. Um, you know, that's pretty much the extent of it. Can DPDR be triggered by an argument? I mean, it kind of depends on, how severe the argument is. But if you're already carrying a bunch of stress and fatigue and emotional distress and tension into the argument, and it's like a cup of water that's already, like, as far as the cup represents your body, the water represents stress, and you're already right there, almost overflow. Yeah, it can just take one drop, one argument, one small situation for you to hit that overwhelm point. Absolutely. And sometimes it can take a relatively low stressful situation to put you in overwhelm, but it didn't take much because you were already walking around at such a high level of stress. So for me, initially in 2008, it was a bad marijuana experience that set me into overwhelm, and that's when DPDR kicked in, right? Trauma symptoms, memory fragmented, time felt distorted, all kinds of trauma symptoms. But I was already carrying around a lot of stress in my body. Went through severe bullying my whole life. Parents went through a really nasty divorce. Had a bunch of religious trauma. Didn't know where I was going in my life. Like, just a lot of stuff had built up. And the marijuana incident didn't have to be as severe as it was for me to hit an overwhelm point. If it wasn't that, it would have been something else. It could have been even a small stressor because I was already so stressed out. It didn't take much for me to hit that overwhelm point. Trauma happens at the point of overwhelm, and that's whenever depersonalization, realization kick in. They don't kick in until the point of overwhelm. They're not anxiety symptoms, which is really fight or flight response. Because if you're fighting or fleeing, there's still a fighting chance. DPDR are dissociative symptoms. Dissociation comes from a Latin root word that means to sever or to separate. They are there to start to separate you from your body or from the material world just in case you're about to be eaten. Fighting or fleeing was not successful and the lion's about to eat you, so let's make this as numb and painless as possible. So DPDR are trauma coping mechanisms. They're there to mitigate the pain of being eaten by a lion. Now, you're not being eaten by a lion, but you're still accessing this response. Why is that? Well, it's because there's so much stress and adrenaline and cortisol and fatigue and unprocessed emotion in your body and chaos in your life that your brain thinks that you're being eaten by a lion. That's why it's happening. So Grayson says that's exactly what happened to me. Health report says, wow, I've been working on my relationship with God and allowing him to be there for co-regulation. Someone to help you with trauma anxiety is a great way to help you. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, Haley says, are neurologists capable of doing anything for DPDR? I mean, I just want to stay in my lane. I'm just a regular guy, just give my opinion. So, all I can do is kind of educate you about what typically happens, right? as far as what my clients report. So, people are struggling with anxiety and panic and DPDR and all these symptoms. They'll go to their doctor. Typically, you know, unless there's some sort of clear neurological impairment, a doctor a lot of times won't even refer you to a neurologist. Um, it's very rare that any of my clients were referred to a neurologist whenever they went to their doctor with their symptoms. Most of the time, like 99% of the time, they had to put it in like a special request to see a neurologist, even though their doctor didn't recommend it. And sometimes it was hard to get in front of one. And then they do different brain scans, and then there's nothing wrong. So, the neurologist, as far as I understand, would really step in and help if there was some clear neurological impairment. And so if there wasn't any neurological issues that were causing the DPDR, then I don't know how much a neurologist would be able to do. I could be wrong on that, but I'm just telling you what my clients say. I mean, definitely, again, see a doctor, see a neurologist if you're concerned, but, they just kind of do the scans, and I don't know that they can do anything after that if there's nothing neurological going on, right? They're a neurologist, right? They're there to help you with neurological issues. But anyway. Is health anxiety a symptom of trauma? It can be. Sometimes, so trauma is whenever your body is constantly going into fight, flight, freeze response. Trauma is not a past event. It's a present perception of threat where there is no threat, and your body preparing to address that perceived threat in the form of fight, flight, freeze response in the body. And whenever your body is constantly full of tension, adrenaline, emotion, fatigue, and you don't know how to self-regulate, and you're not in tune with interoception, the experience of the embodied self, you don't know how to befriend the body, release the buildup, you're going to want a way out. And sometimes obsessing over health can be a dissociative outlet. Remember, dissociation comes from a Latin word that means to sever or to separate. So dissociation is a way to separate you from something. And sometimes if you're constantly in your head obsessing over your health, that is a way for you to not have to be in your body and feel the pain of being embodied. Tension, adrenaline, emotion, fatigue. I had severe health anxiety. And you want to know what? I think a lot of it was a dissociative outlet. Because if I was always in my head worried about my health, I didn't have to be in my body feeling the hell that I was experiencing. I didn't even really know that I had a body for many, many years. I was very disembodied. I was always in my head, did things to numb my body. And then whenever I started to build interoception, the experience of the embodied self, I started to feel what was happening. I was like, what the crap is going on here? I was like, how is there all this tension? How is there all this emotion that's built up? How is there all this adrenaline? Because I wasn't feeling it. My body was a hotel that I never checked into. And that's why I tell people trauma healing begins with feeling. One of the first things I do with my clients after we give them some education, scientific education about what's going on, that's very important, is I have them start to build something called interoception, the experience of the embodied self. And traumatized people don't think that they have any tension or adrenaline or emotion in their bodies. Sometimes they look at me like I'm crazy. They're like, no, maybe other people, but not me. And then they start to build interoception, and then they're like, what the heck is going on here? Where did all this buildup come from? Why am I suddenly so anxious or suddenly so fatigued? And I'm like, no, you've been like that for sometimes a long time. You just couldn't feel it. And then now that we can feel that buildup, we can start to release it. So, Jacob says, can trauma symptoms get this bad to basically not be able to work due to drastic memory issues? I basically feel so dumb that I can't learn anything. Absolutely. We see it all the time. Severe inability to think logically, critically, creatively, contextually. So the prefrontal cortex is greatly diminished in functionality. Memory issues and a trauma response, the memory fragments. You can think of it as like a plate that's broken into 1,000 pieces. It becomes very difficult to remember things. Your brain starts registering as implicit procedural memory instead of explicit narrative-based memory. And essentially what that translates into is when you go to remember things, you're not going to have like a cohesive narrative of like beginning, middle, and end. You're going to basically have like bits and pieces. It's all going to be very difficult to recall. It's going to be very difficult to recall events because typically whenever we recall information, we've got a narrative, right? Explicit narrative-based memory. There's a beginning, a middle, and end. So like with this live stream, the beginning, the middle, the end. So if your memory is working like it should, you'll be able to look back and remember the beginning, middle, and end. But once you enter a trauma response in the memory fragments, you may remember little things that I said here or there. You may remember nothing. Sometimes trauma memory just wipes out everything. So you've got memory issues in a trauma state. Your prefrontal cortex is greatly diminished in functionality. That's logical, critical, creative, and contextual thinking. Also attentional awareness. Trauma is a freaking mess. It is hell on earth. And I'm not trying to say that anxiety and panic is also not hell on earth. I lived with those symptoms for well over a decade. That'll ruin your life too. But once you get into a trauma state, guys, it is a whole nother animal, especially if depersonalization, derealization kick in, you're feeling out of body, everything's dreamlike, you can't think, you can't concentrate, you can't remember anything, your social engagement system is shut down, so you don't feel safe socially engaging, the world feels threatening, your emotions can go numb. I'm telling you, as a former trauma sufferer and somebody who's been on the front lines helping people with trauma for 6 years now, it is freaking hell on earth. And then people try to get help, and because we don't have enough education on trauma, people get told, let's talk about this. Let's go back into your childhood and talk about past things instead of dealing with the trauma in their body in real time. We're talking about the past. Or, hey, let's just work on accepting your symptoms or distracting away. We just signed up a girl for our program who literally has been in talk therapy for 15 years. 15 years. And you will never hear me bash therapists. I love therapists. I love licensed mental professionals. I think that they are so important. But there is a huge, huge gap in education. And there are a lot of therapists that are trying to help complex trauma sufferers with approaches that are not somatically based, and they're not getting the true help that they need. And it's really, really sad. And then people show up to me and they've been trying stuff for years that didn't have the capacity to deal with the physical impacts of trauma, namely the tension, adrenaline, emotion, fatigue in the body. And by the time they show up to my door, there's so much buildup sometimes. Years and years of buildup. And, the lady that I was talking to, she was like, I'll get to the end of the session. And it's like, the therapist is like, okay, I'll see you next week. And my client is like, I wasn't being given any tools. And I don't know that there's a lot of great trauma-informed therapists out there that do give people good tools, but there's not enough of them. And I wish that I didn't have to have a job. People are like, oh, you're not a therapist, you're not a psychiatrist. Like sometimes they'll say that, I guess, trying to say that I'm not qualified. That's fine. You can think that. But here's the thing. If all the therapists and psychiatrists could help everybody with complex trauma and DPDR, then why is that not happening like it should? Like, I don't want to say most, but I'm saying a lot of my clients spent a lot of time with a lot of therapists and a lot of psychiatrists, and they didn't get the help that they needed. We had a girl the other day, well, it wasn't the other day, it's been a couple months ago, but she went to the top psychiatrist at, what was it? Was it Stanford Hospital or something in California? And she was told to squeeze a squishy ball. So I'm not trying to claim that all psychiatrists, all therapists are like that. There's some wonderful ones out there that are trauma-informed, that are changing the world. But guys, there is not enough of them that are trauma-informed. And so until that's the case, as a former trauma sufferer that really relates with people, I'm going to be here to fill in that gap and do the best that I can to help people. And it turns out that the primary thing that heals people is hope and relationship. Co-regulation is 45% of recovery. And I teach people how to get in tune with their body and release their emotions and reduce stress and make some lifestyle adjustments. So I hope one day that I don't need to do this anymore. I don't have fun doing this. It's rewarding, but it's not fun. I'm doing this because I feel like I'm on a mission to help as many people as possible. And it's working. The results, and I'll answer your questions in a second, but the results, I'm literally getting like 2 to 3 messages a day from people in my program that they are getting through this. It's ridiculous how fast sometimes people are getting through this too. It's working, right? People are coming out of this, guys. And as long as that keeps happening, I'm going to still be here. You're going to have to stare at this weird nose and this Adam's apple poking out your camera. So Ballard says, can we ever call and talk to you to get help? Yeah. In all my programs, you get access to me in various ways. So would love to work with you. There's a link underneath this video. You click, there's a link. You go watch my free 5 shifts Steal from Trauma, Anxiety, Panic, DPDR Masterclass. That's my gift to you. But there's also a button. You can apply. You click the button, fill out the application, then it goes to a book to my team, and then we'll discuss mentorship. And we've got lots of different programs. We'd love to work with you guys if we're able to. And I'm a bit tired right now too. You guys can see it, but I like your nose. Kind of have, yay! I've got a nose fan. All right, let's see here. Big Nose Gang. We'll call it the Doug Gang. You guys ever seen the show Doug? That guy had a big nose. There was an episode of Doug one time, and there was this little kid that kept. How many Doug fans we got in here? Let me know in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. Do 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 do. Dun 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 dun. Anyway, there was this kid. He was like, big nose, yum yum, eat him up, and he bit Doug's nose. You guys remember that? Doug was, dude. That's where it was at. Yeah, Skeeter. Yeah, he was his best friend. And then was it Mr. Anyway. That was a good show. All right, guys. Let's see here. Rocco's Modern Life, man. That was the show. Rocco's Modern Life. Rocco's Modern Life. my wife has been struggling with some nausea lately. She's trying some weight loss pills or whatever. Not that she needs to lose any. I think she's fine like she is. But she's been saying, like, I'm nauseous. And Filbert the turtle and Rocco would always be like, I'm nauseous. I'm nauseous. I'm nauseous. Anyway. Dee Dee, can being a hypochondriac cause DPDR? What are some quick tips to help? So, health anxiety, fear of your health can be overwhelming, right? And by the way, guys, don't spam messages. So just maybe ask once and leave it for a little bit. Don't keep asking over and over again, please. Maybe wait 2 or 3 minutes just so it's not spammy. Thank you. But yeah, you can be so anxious about your health, especially if you feel like you're dying. That can cause overwhelm, 100%. If you think about it, the first time that I started to experience a trauma state in DPDR, I technically was worried about my health. I smoked some marijuana, didn't go well. My heart started pounding, and I thought I was dying. So you could say health anxiety is what initially set me off into overwhelm and thus DPDR. So anyway, as far as tips go, I mean, I can't help you with everything in a live stream, but I can definitely give you at least a tip. Whenever you have a thought about your health, number one, see a doctor. Make sure you get checked out by a doctor. Super important. Get a clean bill of medical health. But if your brain gives you a thought about your health that's catastrophic, relax your body and start to say, what else could this be that's not serious? And start going through a list of all the non-serious things that it could be. That's what I had to start doing for my health anxiety. And I literally retrained my brain to consider all the non-serious things that the little tingle could be or the little bump could be. Whereas before, whenever I would have a bump or a tingle or or a heart palpitation, my brain would start going through a list of all the most catastrophic scenarios. And guess what? Google has literally already created your worst nightmare list, because all you got to do is Google your symptoms and then bam, you're going to see a list of all the most catastrophic outcomes. That's why you should not Google your symptoms. If you're concerned, go see a doctor, right? Because Google, like WebMD or just whatever medical website, they're going to list all of the possibilities that your symptom could be associated with. So it's like, you get on Google and you're like, I've been sneezing a lot. I want to check that out. Let's see what sneezing could be. Let's see. Okay, here's a list. Okay, so it could be allergies. Okay, not bad. Yeah, it could be allergies. Could be a cold. Okay, yeah, not bad. I'm not dying or anything. Okay, cold. Wait, what's this? Head falling off syndrome. What? My feet are about to fly off of my body. What is this? You're getting right. I'm trying to be funny a little bit, but you're gonna see something that's like catastrophic with sneezing. So it's like if you are sneezing or you have some symptom that you're concerned about, go to urgent care, go to a doctor, go to your primary GP or whatever. Don't Google your symptoms, guys, because it's going to give you a list of all the possible outcomes. That doesn't mean that it's probable. So, okay, so compulsive gaming. Send an email to support@coachjordanhardgrave.com and copy and paste the message that you just sent, and I will have my assistant get you a free resource to help you, okay? Anybody can watch my free 5 Shifts Masterclass. You click the link in my profile or any of my videos, and it's very, very helpful. But I'll get you some resources to help you out, buddy, okay? So just let me know, or just support@coachjordanhardgrave.com. I'll tell my assistant that you're emailing. Can you let me know what your first name is so I can kind of input that in the email so I can tell my assistant to look for it? Anyway, we'll help you out. All right, don't worry about it. Anybody got any more questions? It's getting kind of late here. It's 12:15 in the morning, and I gotta probably get some shut eye. As you guys can see, my eyes are getting kind of beady, like a frog, ribbit. Yeah, so as far as the existential thoughts, I mean, like I mentioned, man, like you got to just get out of the boxing ring. Like you have to stop trying to solve them with your head. That's a big part of recovery. B, could you scroll up to my question? Sure. Let's see here. Yeah, just watch my 5 Shifts Masterclass. That's the answer, B. It'll show you the basics. That's what it's designed to do, is show you the basics of recovery. And also, man, like, fill out an application. Speak with my team. Like, we work with broke college students. We got a few options. I mean, it may not be as much access to me as somebody who did have the money for it, but we have some options for you. We got a lot of options. So just fill out an application, book a call. Let's see what we can do for you, okay? We try to provide something for everybody, for sure. Yeah, Rick Sanchez says the hardest part of trying to seek help is realizing that nobody truly cares about your mental state. Everybody is way too wrapped up in their own problems. So true. It's support@coachjordanhardgrave.com, and nobody else email me or email that email. Just Compulsive Gaming. I want to help him out, just because my assistant gets a lot of emails anyway. So just support@coachjordanhardgrave.com. Say, I'm Compulsive Gaming from YouTube. Jordan told me to reach out to you, and then I'll tell her that you're emailing, and we'll get you some sort of resources, okay? Ballard, will you do one-on-one coaching if I pay you? I do one-on-one coaching, but I only do it within my programs, the Rise program. So that's the way that I'm helping people. And I work with like, 70 different people at a time in different ways. And you'll get all the programs, you get one-on-one access with me though, where we'll be able to talk directly. So but yeah, going back to what Rick said, I mean, you said the hardest part of trying to seek help is realizing that nobody truly cares about your mental state. Everybody's way too wrapped up in their own problems. I mean, I agree with you kind of using hyperbole, but, some people care. I care, right? Like, I don't have to do this live stream. I'm here because I care, right? Like, there are some people that care, but I know how you feel though, because I had so many people in my life that just didn't care. And I started to get to the point where I was like, maybe nobody cares. And then whenever people who actually cared showed up into my life, I was like, nah, they don't really care. And then over a long period of time, I saw that they actually cared. And it helped kind of renew my mind that like there are people out there who care. Jacob says, can long-term trauma cause problems with posture? Yeah, because the more that you're in fight, flight, freeze, the more that you're probably going to have a posture like this, kind of like Filbert the turtle, right? You're going to be hunched over. And think about it, right? You're getting ready for the freeze response. It's a collapsed posture, kind of fetal position type thing. So, yeah, and as far as narcissistic abuse, I mean, I'm probably going to create a YouTube channel just for that, because it's just not like I work with a lot of people that narcissistic abuse was a factor in their symptoms, but it's such a, there's like a unique healing path for that. And so I'm probably just going to create a specific channel. Oh my gosh, do I love helping people with that, because I went through it multiple times. I know how to heal from it very, very, very well. Just as well as I can help people with, DPDR, anxiety, panic. I can really help people heal from narcissistic abuse. I'm extremely, and I say that humbly, but like I had to go through that healing path myself, and it's very unique. And but yeah, I'm gonna create another channel for that. So I don't want to take up too much time on this channel with it. But yeah, like if you are trying to heal from narcissistic abuse, the first step is you have to get away from them. If you share children with them, then you need to go no contact unless it's related to the children. If you don't share children with them, then you need to go permanent, indefinite no contact and never look back. That's a very important part of healing, and I could talk a long time about that. But one other thing is, if you are healing after narcissistic abuse, in addition to no contact, you need to start to become an individual again. That's a big part of your healing, because whenever you were connected to the narcissist, they sabotaged your individualism because you can't control an individual, right? They needed you to forfeit your individualism in order to stay under their control. Because if you have your own opinion and you live your own life, you make your own decisions, you've got your own style, your own way of doing things, your own friends, that's not as easy to control. So what happened is, the longer that you stayed with the narcissist, the more that you slowly sacrificed your individualism before you really didn't have a say in hardly anything, and you really had a shell of a life. And so thus part of healing, you being in this cocoon and coming out as a butterfly, is you have to start to ask yourself the question, like, what's my opinion about stuff? What's my style? Who do I want to hang out with? Where do I want to go? What do I want to do? Be an individual. That's very, very important. Danica says, my posture improved after releasing fear and shame and self-criticism. That is amazing. I love it. Yeah, there's nothing more crippling than shame. Shame is one of the most toxic, debilitating emotions for the human soul and spirit. I'll bet you did lose yourself. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Oh, they're still, if you've walked away from a narcissist, and you were their supply, meaning they used you to feel a sense of superiority, primarily through leveling, which is where they put you down to build themselves up, and you walk away from them, it's like taking away crack from a crack addict. Like, they're going to go into withdrawal and they're going to try to find some way to put you down, even if it's indirectly through other people, so they can feel that sense of superiority. They go on what's called a smear campaign, and they use something called flying monkeys, which are essentially people that will believe the lies about you and will help them propagate that smear campaign. Narcissists are very, very destructive. They can do they can destroy entire families. And I'm not just talking about like immediate, I'm talking about like uncles, aunts, cousins, brothers, sisters, moms, that like they can destroy an entire family because of just how disruptive they can be. So, all right, guys. Well, hey, I'm probably going to jump off here. I hope that that has helped you. Um, you guys are awesome. I really appreciate you guys showing up to these live streams. Health report says, do you need to know what moment or moments that cause the DPDR or anxiety to heal? No. No, and the clients that I work with, most of the time, not always, but it's complex trauma, right? DPDR show up at the point of overwhelm. Your body is full of tension and adrenaline, emotion, and fatigue to the point that your brain thinks that you're being eaten by a lion. And so the mohawk of self-awareness starts to shut down, and it's believed that this is kind of nature's last gift. If you're going to be eaten by the lion, you can't fight or flee, and the lion doesn't think that you're dead by playing dead, which is what the freeze response is, then let's make your death by lion as numb and painless as possible, right? So DPDR kick in to dissociate you. Remember, it's the dissociation comes from the Latin root word that means to sever or separate. So DPDR are there to separate you from the pain happening in your body and in your life. So basically, how did you get to that point, though? How did you get to that point of overwhelm? Right? And most of the time, it's the slow buildup of stress. Well, I'm sorry, at least with my clients, most of the time. It's the slow buildup of stress over a period of time. It's not just one situation, which would be a major trauma. It's not just one situation that causes overwhelm. It's a lot of things that build up. I hear stories all the time. I mean, just the most heartbreaking, gut-wrenching, debilitating stories. I'll get a call from, my team members that take the calls whenever people sign up to work with us, and they'll be like, dude, this person has been through some stuff. Like, I'm going to have to take like an hour or two off just to take some time after I just heard what they've been through. Like, guys, like we deal with some really, really tough situations. The people that come to us, they've really, really, really been going through a lot. So, and again, it's the slow buildup over time. It wasn't something that happened all at once. Although that can happen, and that's a major trauma. And I talk about this in my 5 shifts masterclass. But so often it's really a long history of stress and adversity that builds up, and then eventually you hit that overwhelm point. Okay, so Crystal, I'm not going to tell you to stay or leave your husband. That's not my place. Talk to a marriage counselor, do a lot of thinking, get educated about narcissism if that's what you think that you're dealing with. Read the book by Dr. Romani called Should I Stay or Should I Go, as well as It's Not You. Those are two. She's like the world's expert on narcissism for the most, well, maybe not the top, but one of the top out there. But what I will tell you is, you mentioned you're staying for the kids. Mm-mm. You're not staying for the kids. Because if you, let's even say you're not dealing with a narcissist, if you're truly dealing with a broken marriage that is beyond repair, the other person isn't even trying to fix it, and especially if there's any form of abuse going on, it's doing nothing but damaging the children, because the neural pathways in their brain as it relates to relationships are being formed based upon what they're observing. And their brain is literally laying a neurological template of broken relationships that is going to shape their perspective for the rest of their lives. So you're not staying for the kids. It is much, much, much better for the kids for you to get away from a broken, toxic, abusive relationship where the other person isn't even trying to fix it than to stay and the children have to witness that and have their perception of relationships distorted for the rest of their lives. And idealistically, you'll be able to remarry someone who your children are able to witness you and him having a wholesome, healthy relationship, and that can help restore the damaged perceptions that have been created through what they've observed in the current marriage. Again, I'm not telling you that you need to leave your husband. I don't get involved in that. I don't know him. I don't know. Hey, there's people that get on live streams I've seen on TikTok, and it turns out they're really the narcissist, and they're just gaslighting. And then I'll get a message. This is why I don't really talk about this stuff very much anymore. But I'll get a message be like, "Hey, you were talking to my wife," and I've never told anybody to leave their husband on a live stream or anything, or leave their wife. But they'll be like, "Hey, it turns out that actually she's the narcissist," and they'll have all this proof of it. And I'm just like, dude, I don't know. Like, I trust you and everything, but all that I'm saying is that's not my place to make that decision for you. But what I can tell you is, if somebody were truly connected to a narcissist, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, whatever, mom, dad, the problem is they don't think that they have any issues that need to change. And so it's impossible to fix a situation if the person doesn't think that there's anything wrong. Like, it takes two people to form a covenant. It only takes one person to break it. And if you've got one person that's willing to fix it and to go through the work, and the other person is literally projecting all the issues onto the other person, what are you going to do? Like, you can't fix that. As much as you want it to fix, as much as you want it to be fixed, you can't. Like, you have to have two people who recognize that they have issues and that they need to be fixed. If you've got one person that puts the problems onto the other person 100% of the time, like, you can't fix that. And I can't tell you how many pastors that I've spoken with or therapists that have tried to fix a narcissist. There are some exceptions, and I think that God can do all things. And I think that if somebody's willing to, to admit they're wrong, if they are a narcissist, it's probably not going to happen. But sometimes their whole world can come crashing down, and then they get to a place where they admit that they need help. God can help them, counselors can help them, but until that point, I mean, the essence of narcissism is they think that they're superior. They think everybody else is the problem. So it's like, good luck with that. It's probably not going to work. You're probably not going to be able to ever change them because they're not even willing to acknowledge that they need help. They can change. And technically, narcissism is just simply being vulnerability avoidant. They don't know how to deal with their emotions. That's why they take on this persona of superiority. That's why they gaslight, which is denying reality. That's why they project all the issues onto you. That's why they lie. That's why they manipulate, is because all of these tactics are ways to attempt to shield them from an emotion that they don't know how to deal with. Because as long as they feel superior, they don't have to feel the emotion of feeling inferior. As long as you're wrong, they don't have to feel the emotion of them being wrong. It's literally like a narcissist is literally like a dysregulated, highly emotional 5-year-old in an adult's body. And that's why there's a high comorbidity between narcissism and addiction, because they're so emotionally dysregulated. A lot of times they'll look to addiction, whether it's alcohol or whatever, to numb that, or drugs or whatever. So if you've got somebody that will do anything to not have to deal with their emotions, they'll go to whatever lengths that it takes, even if it means denying reality or projecting all the issues onto you or lying or manipulating. Like, guys, you're not going to be able to fix that situation if that's what you're in. You can keep trying and forgive and love and demonstrate and try to take them to church and pray and all that stuff. Even God can't help somebody that's not willing to admit that they have problems. It's a big problem, guys. So Raven Hagen says, facts, my stepdad was one and it was horrible. Yeah. Yeah. Can people be a little narcissistic? How about all human beings? Like, if you look up the 9 traits of narcissism, you're going to be like, crap, I've done that. Wait, no, I've done that before. Guys, human beings are narcissistic by nature. But there's a vast difference between being a little narcissistic and being a narcissist. A narcissist is somebody who operates in most or more of the 9 traits of narcissism on a consistent basis in an extreme way. It's a very small percent of the population. So be very careful. Just because you see somebody gaslight or project doesn't make them a narcissist. Everybody does that sometimes. Everybody lies sometimes. You'll know if it's a narcissist. Well, you won't know if you've been brainwashed. That's why you need to get educated. But if you get educated, especially about covert narcissism, and you know their tactics, you'll be able to see, wait a second, this isn't something that happens occasionally, which is all humans are narcissistic from time to time. This is something that happens constantly. They're constantly putting others down to build themselves up. They constantly walk around with a sense of superiority. They think that they're special. They think that they're entitled to special treatment, that they're better than other people. Very low levels of empathy too. That's one of the hallmarks of narcissism, is little to no empathy. And the reason why is because whenever there's a conflict, they're not feeling pain in their body. That's really where empathy is. It's physiological. They're in their head trying to figure out how to get out of the situation. What do I got to do? What lie do I have to tell? How do I project this onto the other person? And if you've got a relationship with somebody that can't feel empathy, oh, you better run very fast from that, because what that's going to lead to is you are going to be wrong 100% of the time. And that is devastating for the psyche. That will destroy your life if you're in a relationship with a narcissist, because they're going to make you believe that you literally can do no good and you're the source of all the problems. Guys, it's bad news, and you need to run from that 10,000 miles away. So, sense of superiority, little to no empathy, highly manipulative, puts other people down to build themselves up. It's called leveling. Can a person have a panic attack for no reason? I mean, it's hard to answer that question. I mean, the fact that they're having a panic attack is proof that there is a reason for it. The question is, what is that reason? So, I mean, I would say no. It depends on what you mean by that, because sometimes there's a sensory trigger that you're experiencing that's below the level of conscious awareness that is influencing your nervous system, and it appears to be for no reason, but there is a reason. You're seeing, smelling, tasting, touching, feeling something that is similar to something painful from your past, and it can produce a massive sympathetic nervous system response to the point of panic. So consciously, it appears as if it's random and there's no reason, whenever in reality, there's a very highly sensitized sensory trigger that's producing the panic. Also, sometimes, if you don't get good sleep, And you don't even really think about that. The less sleep that you get, the more overactivated that the amygdala becomes in your brain. And you're going to become more and more stressed out, and that could lead to panic. And maybe you're thinking like, this panic feels random, but then you're not realizing that you haven't been getting good sleep for the last few nights. So there's a possibility. Also, panic can happen because of reactive hypoglycemia. So if you eat really like high levels of empty carbohydrates, you don't have a balance of fats, proteins, fiber, and carbs together in your meals, you'll get a big, if it's just empty carbs that you're eating, you'll get a big spike in your blood sugar, and then it'll drop super low, and your body will produce adrenaline to stabilize your blood sugar, and that adrenaline can manifest in panic. But you're not thinking about it. You're just like, I just ate a big box of donuts. So this is random, whenever in reality it could be that too. There's all kinds of things that could be happening that are causing panic, and you're not consciously aware of what they are. So to you, it feels like they're random. The panic attacks are random or happening for no reason, but they are, right? Danica says, DPDR while driving sucks so bad, can't think of anything worse. Oh yeah, I used to experience that, man. It was literally one of the most debilitating experiences ever. Like trying to drive while feeling depersonalized and derealized is literally hell on earth. I mean, it was just like, I just remember like, I just was so uncomfortable, and I just kept moving around, and I was just like, oh, like, can this be done? It was just so triggering and fatiguing, and like my eyes would get all lights. It was bad. It was really bad. What's up, Enter Yin? And finally, I'm seeing you live. Awesome. Good to see you, buddy. I'm about to jump off here. I'm tired. It's almost 1 in the morning.